Well, hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello,
Oh, how are
hello.
you?
Look at these beautiful ladies on this live show. Well, there's so much to talk about. I don't know where to start, but let's do this. How about we just do a quick, you know, nobody knows who any of us are. So maybe just a quick a minute of what you do today, Anne, and Dr. Kim Schlam. I
Slam.
apologize.
Schlam.
I got it. And look, we're badasses today,
Yeah,
so
We are. We've
we're
decided.
gonna try to
every
keep it a
day.
little spicy.
Okay,
um,
let her rip.
and you founded Do
Yep.
in 2016. Maybe start there.
Okay, well, let's see. I'm a registered dental hygienist, 46 years in, and I retired in 2020. I came back after the pandemic because, I wanted to do that, but I didn't want to have a walker with my patient having a walker. So I retired from clinical. And somewhere around 42, I know that we moved to Charlotte after 10 moves. I took 6 state boards as a dental hygienist. Yeah, back in the day.
Wow.
And landed in Charlotte, took the board. And then my husband decided we weren't going to move the kids anymore. We both decided it. And so he quit his corporate job. I was a lovely corporate wife and I'm very good at it. So I really enjoyed being a corporate wife, but he quit his job and became an entrepreneur and started his own chemical company. And so then, somebody had to continue to make more money and it was me. And so I did 2 days of hygiene and I started my first side gig at the age of 42. And that led me on a path to a lot of different things, a leadership company, my own fresh breast center. I met a guy and started Dental Entrepreneur with him as a founder of Dental Entrepreneur magazine, Business Beyond the Classroom, and then went to all the dental schools. And fast forward 10 years ago, because we're celebrating our 10th anniversary, one of my dearest friends in marketing who, those people that, are always returning your phone calls, always returning your emails, put my magazines under her booth at the shows. I happened to call her on a Thursday afternoon and I said, "Hey, how you doing, Sue?" Like girlfriends do, right, Kimberly?
Yes.
And she was crying because her boss had written in her 360 review, her smile was insincere and it looked like she was plotting something. And I'm like, that's insane because you are the most sincere person I know. And I love you dearly. And darn it, I'm going to start another magazine for women in dentistry to highlight women in dentistry. And that is literally how Do Life started. About a 45-minute phone call. I thought she would quit her corporate job and she couldn't because she was the breadwinner. And on the back porch with my husband with the martini in my hand, I said, "Oh, I'll just call it Dental Entrepreneur Woman," because I already had Dental Entrepreneur. And that is literally how Dental Entrepreneur Woman was founded.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we're 10 years in and there's about a passion behind it. Like women need to,
Well, you've done some amazing things, and we're going to talk about that as we continue the conversation. Dr. Kim Schlam,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I could go on for probably 2 hours on my own, but really kind of spicy, interesting history. Was raised by not dentists, right? But I went all the way through to become a prosthodontist, and I'm super proud of that journey. I went to dental school in Boston, met my husband there. So interesting journey a little bit together. And both did residencies. So I went down to North Carolina and specialized right after dental school. So I was never a general provider, went right into specializing. My husband did his oral surgery training in the Army. So we lived an hour apart in North Carolina. And then I got the great idea to follow him into the military. So I was an active duty Army prosthodontist for 4 years. And actually, we both went to Tufts, right? You're Tufts grad as well? Yeah.
2001.
Yep. So I graduated a little bit after that, but
they kicked me out after I got my degree. There was no residency. I mean, forget about it, man. You're lucky you got your degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we had a blast. But like you probably agree, like there's so many people that meet in dental school. So yeah, my husband and I met and we were like, do we think we could not kill each other throughout this journey of life? And so far we're going on 13 years married. So it's worked out so far. But very different paths. But yeah, did our residency training. I had 2 kids while I was in the military. Military sent us to the West Coast, which we always had hoped for. I wanted to live on the West Coast, and we had our heart set on San Diego. My husband's a surfer, and I love the sunshine, but worked in the Seattle area for a little bit as an associate, and loved the dentistry that I was doing, loved what I was learning, loved my colleague. But I realized I just always wanted to create my own thing. I wanted to have my own brand, my own identity. I wanted to offer an incredible patient experience, and I wanted to do it with the most cutting edge digital technology. So decided to start my own practice, and I found Bend, Oregon, which is a beautiful mountain town, very high-end medicine. A lot of people respect, the highest quality of treatment in medicine and plastic surgery. And so I said, why is there not a prosthodontist there yet? So I decided to go down there and do a startup. So I'm 3 years into my startup, incredibly proud of not just what I built for my patients, but the team that I've built. I have incredible people under me, or with me, I should say, building me up to be, the star of the show. And just genuinely grateful every day for that kind of crazy journey, because, military and associateship, and then now owner, I feel like I've layered a lot of knowledge in a short period of time. So a fun journey.
Wow. It's amazing effort and work that you ladies have done. I want to read something here. By 2030, it's projected, ADA is projecting that 44% of US licensed dentists are going to be females. And by 2040, it's going to be 50%. And this is why I think this conversation is important, because I have to say, you ladies have it much more difficult than us men. And that's why I think this is an important conversation to have. There's so much to this, because you have to have ambition, you have to have drive, you have to have all the things that men have, but you also now have to take care of the house. You have to, give birth to children. Being a mother, it's different. You love your kids different than the men. I mean, that's just the reality of it. You're much more nurturing. You're much more empathetic, I have to say. Although we're a lot more logical and you're a lot more on the emotional side. We can talk about that. I'm not a therapist, and I'm not but I will say that I believe there's a lot more that you have to juggle every day than your typical male dentist, especially when you get into marriage and you get into kids. And it's interesting, because in the same stats that I'm looking at, generally speaking, females are not as, and Kim, I know we briefly touched on this, talking about, for example, all on X surgeries, and how very few females are involved with that type of procedure. Getting involved with even ownership of dental practices, there's a lot less females engaging in ownership. Not that they don't like the dentistry, they just don't want to deal with all the extras with HR and employees and payroll and the management side of things, just like most men counterparts complain about that, but they put up with it a little bit more. The reason I say that is because you have to go and drop the kids off at soccer practice, and you have to pick them up from gymnastics, and they have camps, and there's just so much more going on in your lives that you take the burden compared to the male counterpart. So this is the conversation I kind of want to lead into, to say, do you at some point feel like, do you sit down and just wonder, like, am I doing this to benefit who? Is this about me? Is this about my husband, my marriage? Is this about the kids? What am I missing here? I had a great conversation with Dr. Colleen Olitsky and Laura Brennan just last week, who completely left dentistry.
Yeah.
They left. They said, you know what? For whatever reason, we had the conversation. We talked hour and a half, 2 hours last week. they were miserable
Yeah.
in the profession. So it's not an easy task for you ladies to still be grinding in this profession, and obviously many years, but also Kim, for you,
Mhm.
starting out with your new practice. So do you want to kind of talk about how do you feel about this side of you that's so ambitious, but yet you're now a mom, and I know, and you have older kids. But Kim, you have a 5 and a 7-year-old. You want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that side of life?
Yeah. And I think I would start by saying, you mentioned we have to make the lunches or we have to get them to camps and we have to this. I always, when I'm mentoring other women, I say you don't have to do all the
Yeah.
things all the time. And Ann, you'll agree with this.
Mhm.
I pride myself in my ability to delegate, and I pride myself in choosing. And I always say this, Marie Kondo, you know who Marie Kondo is and her beautiful show on Netflix. This is literally every lecture I give. I don't care if it's at a study club or on the main stage. Only keep what brings you joy in your life. And I think that that's why I still have so much joy for the dentistry that I do, because I don't try to do it all at this phase of my life. There are prosthodontists that do all their own surgery, that do all of their own digital planning, that run their entire practice. I delegate the shit out of my life, right? Can we say shit on here? But
Absolutely.
Said badass. I think we can say shit.
That's right.
but that is what I pride myself in, is picking incredible team members. I'm a collaborator at heart, so that's what brings me the most joy. Is I call it sharing the win. But I have a beautiful human that comes to our house in the morning and makes the kids lunches, and she takes them to camp, because I realize when I start my day like that, I'm not the best version of myself showing up to huddle, right? I change my schedules to actually have Mondays off instead of Fridays, right? And there's this whole book on winning the Monday. Well, the win of Monday for me as a mom is having Mondays off so that I can enjoy my Sunday. I don't have the Sunday scaries. I enjoy my Sunday with my kids and then wholeheartedly come into Monday, right, doing some of the things that I didn't have to like multitask on the weekend, and I can have admin time that naturally flows into my clinical schedule. So that being said, like, I think ultimately I really sat down, and not everybody has this time or energy to do it, but thought about what is my secret sauce that I'm bringing to dentistry. And that's connection with my patients, amazing treatment planning, and this aesthetic eye that I feel like only I can bring to my practice. And every ounce of everything else, I've picked incredible partners. So like right before this call, I had this great call with my consultant and my numbers guy, right? And I sit and I just look at the numbers. They do all the hard work behind the scenes and I make strategic decisions. So I know that's a little bit long-winded, but it's winning at life.
Delegation is
Delegation. Yep.
and we are so particular about being in control as dentists clinically.
Yes.
We want tremendous autonomy. It's a big discussion as far as even, how we deliver our cases, how we set up the room to deliver. And now you're talking about delegation. It's almost like counterintuitive in a sense of you have a certain mindset, but you think a different way in practice. Tori, why don't you show this, show asset number 1, please.
Fuck you, kid! Fuck you!
Did you really just say that?
Yeah, I did. I just said fuck you! And I mean, how fucking dare you? After all that I have done and all that I have given to you, my life, my love, my body, I broke my fucking vagina with a big fucking head of yours, and I had to be surgically sewn back together. I bet you didn't know that, did you? I'm sick of it. I want happiness. I earned happiness. I'm a human being, Lizzie. And you know what else don't you dare bitch at me about my career. Yes, I worked my ass off to get where I am. And I wanted it. I wanted to be something. I wanted to mean something in this world. I didn't know that was a fucking crime. Life isn't perfect, okay, baby? We don't get everything we want. You're young, go make the life that you want. You see how fucking easy it is. And stop bitching and complaining and blaming me.
It just had to, that's a very powerful clip. And there's so many ways we can go with this, but at some point, there's got to be that hunger and that desire within you. And I think motherhood changes many female dentists. Let's keep it real in a sense, because, you know, in any medical profession, right? Or any field, really, you change when you become a mom. You could change to be more driven, for
I
example,
agree. Yes.
right? You could also be driven to be more nurturing and more, you know, I don't know if the career is what I was looking for. Now I have Tommy and Jill. And so you could really pivot in two different directions. And that's, and, you know, I was raised, well, if I may share, I was born in Iran, and my dad was the provider. My mom took care of 3 kids. We came to America, and my dad's a surgeon, so he lost all his credentials coming to the US like an international dentist would. But he was a surgeon, medical doctor surgeon. And so it took him 3-4 years to pass all the exams and, you know, the language barrier. And he passed, he got through it. So I have a different upbringing than most. I mean, my kids have a much easier upbringing today, which is kind of an interesting, that's a good conversation to have too. Bring in immigrant dentists and immigrant families.
Yeah.
Hey, Tori, there's an idea for a show. But the reason I say that is my kids take so many things. They're in private schools and they have phones, they have everything. And yet, you know, I had nothing growing up in my teenage years coming to a new country, you know. I didn't even know the language. I had to learn this English language. But in the end, the opportunity for women today is so powerful. And I want, Anne, maybe you can touch on this because you talk to so many women in our profession today. Do you ever have a conversation about how motherhood changes the female dentist, female hygienist, and what direction do you usually find them going? And then I want to have a follow-up question to that as well.
Well, first of all, I just want to say, I think, you know, because in your prompt was like, do men have, or do women have it easier, or do men have it easier? That's what the prompt was. And I actually don't necessarily think it's easier. I think it's different. I think that women, and what I hear from all these women, that they do want their profession and they want to be successful. That women have certain strengths that, and most women in dentistry are achievers and, you know, want more. They're success oriented. And I hear from them that, you know, exactly what Kimberly said, you have to be able to delegate and to find the balance on your own. You've got to be able to do that. And that it does change you when you have kids, but the kids are fine and the kids are going to be fine. And I think the hard tug there is that the kids don't miss you as much as you miss being a part of their lives. So I think they're fine. They, you know, like you can have a nanny now. I mean, my God, my kids have house managers. I mean, it's a big deal. You have somebody to pack the lunches. You have somebody to make the dinner. You have dinners come in. There's a great way to balance it. You just have to release some of those things that we carry. And it's an invisible load that women carry because we like being the conductors. We like telling everybody what to do, and we like spinning 10 plates. And the men really are laser focused, that they have different pressures on them that we have. And it is the burden of many spinning at the same time. That's just how it's all of those plates. And women are very good at arranging. The women I talk to, they're very good at like figuring out how to have the work-life balance. And I think dentistry, honestly, the women that are happiest in dentistry have figured out how to do it. And there's seasons. That's the other thing. There are seasons. You know, like for me, I wasn't a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 days of hygiene, and I was lucky to be able to do that. In fact, the kids probably thought I was a stay-at-home mom, but yeah, I had a career all the way through. I never gave up, but I balanced it when they were little, just like Kimberly's doing with taking Mondays off. And kudos to you. That is this. I always tell everybody, take a Monday off because otherwise Sundays suck also. Right? Yeah. Because you're just worried about what you got to do and you got to be at the office. So that is so smart. And we need to do a whole blog on that, Kimberly.
Yes.
But, you know, you can figure that out. And then and I'm telling you, when you get into your 40s, early 40s, then the kids are on their own. They really don't want to see mom that much. They're fine. They're doing their thing. That's when you still have your career. And then you put the pedal to the metal, and that's when you fly. And, you can still practice until, I don't know, until you want to, but our motto is principle number 9 is start and don't stop. Do's don't retire. And that's, if you love what you do, you're going to continue to do it. But I think life is long. I love to say that. And it's great to take a little step back. Doesn't mean you're just going to stop your career, but also to be able to finish out. If you want to do 4 days a week, fantastic. We love that. But also, you're not doing the mundane things, and you're smart about that. It's just about being smart and letting go and giving yourself permission to do that, because nobody can give you permission but yourself.
Yeah, well said. I think, great wisdom. And I have to tell you, considering how many women you talk to on a daily basis, weekly basis, and I want to get further into Do and what you're doing with Do. I have a question for you, Kim, on your Instagram. I have a few questions. I don't know what the name is, but what has been the biggest lesson in building your confidence and leadership? And what would you tell younger women entering dentistry or oral surgery?
Building my confidence. That's an interesting question. I think every successful case that you have happen with your patients, that obviously builds your confidence. But when you can get into, really honing in the skill set. And again, I think some of my secret sauce is that I don't try to do 1,000 different procedures. We say kind of like niche dentistry, and you don't have to be a prosthodontist to do that, but pick a couple sects of dentistry, because I'm 40, right? I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to continue to develop, but I've picked maybe 2 or 3 procedures that I was like, this is my passion. This is what I want to really get great at. And I am a CE junkie. So I just attend every webinar. It comes in my email, right? I sign up, read every article, read every book in these maybe 3 sections of dentistry, right? And then build your confidence there before you say, I'm going to do all of dentistry and I'm going to, expose myself to such an extreme, because we can't possibly all, in my opinion, be amazing at all the things. So pick a couple things that you really love. And again, like oral surgery, that in itself, like oral surgery is massive, right? But you can pick a couple things in oral surgery that you absolutely love and run with that and become that subject matter expert. We use that term all the time in the military, but become that person. And then when you become that person, then you'll be asked to maybe, hey, you were really great at that. Will you teach that? And as soon as you get again, I teach for various companies and for Spear, but that helps build confidence as well, because when you have to teach something to somebody else, you better make sure you know all the good and bad of that procedure. So I don't know if that seems to help.
It's great advice.
Sure.
What, Kim, what 3 services or procedures do you enjoy doing?
Yeah. So right now, I say right now because it can change all the time, but my main 3 procedures that I really focused on, that I felt as a prosthodontist, is really what I should be offering the world and what I love to do. I do collaborative all-on-X treatment, so full arch implant rehabilitations. And because my husband and I are specialists, we do a lot of revision cases with that as well. So all-on-X that went bad, we revise them, but we sometimes get them to start from the beginning. So become pretty much experts in that, and a fully digital workflow on how to do that. And then I also love minimally invasive ceramics, full mouth preparations, and veneers. So I guess full mouth, combination of implants and teeth, and then veneers, and doing veneers, not just with the traditional ceramics, but really honing in on the printing. So I've spent the last year really understanding as much as possible about 3D printing, its applications in lots of types of dentistry. And again, it was different than how I learned dentistry not that long ago, right? At Tufts. And in my residency, it was like, this retentive prep. And I'm literally changing my preps now this far in, saying, you know what, I can do it differently because our materials have changed. And I want to be, the most biomimetic for my patients. So, yeah.
I had Dr. Pei on the show.
He's great.
I've had Dr. David Wong on the show, periodontist.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I've had Dr. Rob Bryant on the show, Dr. Ryan Kazemi on the show, Dr. Todd Sawich on the show, oral surgeons.
Yeah.
And the conversation, and I want to touch on this all on X, the conversation is about the over treatment of all on X. And this is not the focus of of this topic today, but the over treatment or over diagnosis of all on X by general dentists and general practitioners, and the lack of skill to not only perform the procedure well, but also be able to manage the complications, whether restorative or surgical. And, Dr. Pere is a great example of being a badass all on X surgeon and doing the restorative as well. He shows some beautiful cases. So it's not that a general dentist can't do it.
Correct.
There are some amazing general dentists doing amazing things. In fact, they're placing pterygoids and zygotes that specialists won't touch.
Correct. I agree.
But on the other hand, it's so diluted with garbage as well, garbage in, garbage out, that it's created a flurry of joy for lawyers in malpractice scenarios. Do you want to just briefly talk about the importance of, you mentioned, we all talk about the practice of dentistry. So the argument is always comes back to say, well, how are you going to get better if you don't practice? Well, I get it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you go from implant number 3 to an all on X double arch.
Correct. Yeah. And I just got back from the Mykonos Full Arch Summit. And again, it's a plethora of providers that are placing, and there's some of the top clinicians around the world. And I had the opportunity to be on stage with them and super honored to have that. But I got to see, in every country it's different, right? Who is most trained. They have different even names of their specialists, right? So the concept of implantologist is different in another country than it is US. I think, and again, this is my philosophy for teaching, what we are not teaching enough in this type of therapy is treatment planning. So the beginning and the end cap, right? The actual treatment planning of it. And then how do we maintain these patients long-term? Because that's where I see 90% of the complications, or setting appropriate expectations. I mean, you look at studies, we don't even have super long studies on these materials that we're putting in people's mouths for double arch. And that's what I'm hoping to publish on next year, is like, how do we think conceptually on, are we over-engineering every mouth with double arch zirconia? I don't think we have the answer to that yet. So again, a lot of my studies behind the scenes are, what are the appropriate longest term materials? Because I get to see patients after 35 years of them being in the mouth. Most providers have not experienced that, right? Those patients show up at pros offices. They don't show up in every other office.
Yeah.
So I've seen every complication in the book you can imagine. But ultimately, I think anybody who finds that this type of dentistry is their favorite type of dentistry, those are the people that should be doing it, not just a prosthodontist or an oral surgeon or whatever, right? You build your career, like Dr. Pere, for example, build your career on being passionate about this treatment solution, and then understanding all the ins and outs and the nuances and how to take that patient through that journey, what I call the journey of rehabilitation. It's not just taking teeth out and putting new teeth back in. The most important part is, how do we get them back to feeling like the human that they want to be, socializing appropriately, understanding how to stepwise eat food again. I describe it with my patients like we've chopped a leg off. And ultimately, I think a lot of these female groups that are spurring, right? There's, various different clubs on how do we get women into this arch type therapy. Again, I think there are tons of women that are excited and interested, and much like oral surgery is less represented by women still. These fields should be available to everybody, but I also feel like these top women who are doing these top things shouldn't just be in the women's groups. To my argument earlier, like, they should be on the top stages. So again, I was honored to be included in that symposium that just happened. There were only 2 women speakers, one from Portugal and then myself. And I truly felt like I got to share, right, some of the top things that are happening in the US. So,
well, let me just play a little devil's advocate here. Because there aren't that many female dentists doing all on X surgeries.
Correct.
And so by proportion, that's why there are not as many female dentists on stages. And
Yeah.
so how do we get more females involved with All on X? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I think what they're trying, what various companies and the industry partners are doing, so various implant companies, is they're starting with, we have a lot of CE events wrapped around male activities, out in the woods, driving trucks and shooting guns, which I'm like, oh, that looks fun. I was in the military. I want to do that too. Now there's female retreats, right? So whether it's in orthodontics and I have friends hosting these retreats, and you can probably share all the things that you do, but very female focused retreats. So now the women go and have their own weekend of learning and clubs and all that. And I guess my hope, and this is what I talk to my industry partners when I talk to them, is I say, well, it's okay to start there. That could be a stepping stone where women learn to share their ideas openly and feel comfortable and vulnerable. What we need to do is somehow take that vulnerability so that it's a male-female group. Because ultimately, because there are more males, we want that knowledge too. If we stay in our own bubble on the side, right, we are not going to learn as much. So I feel like, yes, the female separated groups are great because we will learn to communicate and ask the questions that we need to do and not be afraid to bring things up as study clubs. Because I see this, right?
Yeah.
I teach a lot of study clubs and the women sit there and are afraid to raise their hand. So it's a good stepping stone for that. But we also need to have a plan to somehow have them all mesh together so that we can share the knowledge.
I talked to Dr. Colleen last week, and she said, if you pay me $2 million today, I'm not going back to dentistry.
Wow.
And on the same video clip, she said, if I was a single mom, I'd figure it out. So here's the question, and I want to ask this with all due respect, because if you are a single provider, do you think it's a different game? Because here's many male dentists, I want to say they're potentially either single providers or have a much larger share in the financial responsibility of the home.
Yeah.
So they have to press more, meaning they have to go after the bigger procedures and bigger services, and they take the bigger risks. If you are a second provider and not as needed in a sense, maybe the female dentists are not as aggressive and not as, why do I need to learn? I have a great provider. I will work 3 days a week, 4 days a week, provide, do the dentistry that's easier, do the dentistry that's less complicated. Do you think that, and this is why I think for you, Kim, is like, you're such a go-getter, because you're like, F it, my husband's an oral surgeon, but I'm going after the big procedures. I'm going after the specialty. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. There's kind of two prongs to this, which I think are interesting because I get asked all the time, like, isn't the best job to be an oral surgeon's wife? You've probably heard this. And I laugh because I'm up here in Whistler right now with another family of oral surgeon, right, and his wife. And I chuckle about it. I know that I'm a unicorn and I do dentistry, not just for the job of dentistry. I'm like truly passionate. And I don't even know where that came from. Sometimes I'm like, I wish I had this piece of myself I could pluck out and stick over here. I thought it would happen after having kids. I'd become less passionate and maybe less driven about solving these big picture things that I lay in bed thinking about. But it's just not me. So I think the beauty of dentistry for women is you can have it either way. And I think you're 100% right. There are women that say, because of the finances, or I'm more secure, I don't need to do that crazy thing because it just adds stress to my practice. And again, I think much to your argument, Anne, is that there's seasons, right? Maybe right now is not that time for you, or maybe it never is. But if you're someone like me that genuinely, I sit at night thinking about these big picture concepts that I know we haven't solved, right? Have we actually even solved occlusion yet? I don't think so. So like that is just the nuances that you can keep digging throughout your entire career of dentistry. Like you can pick one part of it and geek out for your whole life. So I'm just
Yeah.
that person, and like I'm going to be driven no matter what. It's not about the finances. I joke all the time, if I wanted to make a lot of money, it wouldn't be what I'm doing right now, right? I would go into finance or something else, but dentistry is not easy for any of us. So
Yeah. So, and I want to touch on this, kind of expand on this conversation, because you deal with single moms in your group. By stats, there's only 10%, and I can go through the entire stat, but 10% of happily married couples, happily married. And so the majority are either unhappy, or they're stuck in the marriage, or they're divorced, right? And so you are now this female dentist that is in your program with Do, talked about retreats. Talk to me a little bit about the conversations with single providers that are female moms. What is that conversation like? And, what are the stresses that they deal with? Is it more about the dental practice, the dental business, the home life, the custody battle? What's going on in their heads?
Well, I mean, again, custody battles and divorce is difficult for anybody, especially for women. I think they take it a little bit more on the heart. And I want to just kind of circle back on what we were just talking about too, because look, everybody's different. You have to know what you want, and just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you don't want the best for yourself, or you don't have this drive. But you don't. Not everybody. Like I think you're right, Kimberly. You are a unicorn as a female. What you're doing, that is amazing. But dentistry is really for anybody that and you just have to figure out what's going to work for you. And it's a great career for women and people that don't like dentistry and want to leave. And I love Laura Brenner. I know her really well. And that's great. She just wasn't fit for dentistry. You get in dental school, they don't really, you just get in mostly now for your grades. Dental hygiene, it's nothing about how good you are with people or how good you are with your hands. And the same thing with dentistry, it's your grades. And so I can imagine that once you graduate dental school and you're drilling into, it's like a body part, right? You're taking the body part out, taking the leg off, or taking the tooth out. That's just not for everybody. And not everybody got, it wasn't what they bought into. And so I just feel like, I just think that there are different. Some men are really driven, and some women are really driven. You have to know what your strengths are and what floats your boat. But I think that women going into dentistry, they don't have to be hard charging to have a great career. I just think you love it, Kimberly. I think that's phenomenal. And Reedy Patel is in Charlotte. She's an oral surgeon. She just bought her second practice. She loves it, and she's got 3 kids, and she's doing it. She's doing everything, but she's also managing it. And her husband is also very successful, but she does it because she loves it. And I just really hope that women know that they can do whatever they set their mind to if they have their tribe, if they have their community. And I also loved what you said about we need men. Like when I started I started a women's group, and at our retreat, the only guy in the room is going to be the AV guy. But I love men, and I love my husband. I have 2 amazing sons, and we need them all. We need to all sit at the table. And what the problem was with Do 10 years ago is exactly what you were talking about, Kimberly. I remember I started Do and went to a meeting, and there were 2 women speakers, and there were 30 men. This is just 10 years ago. So it's not that we aren't successful and belong on stage. We're just not getting picked because the men are picking it. It's like, who's going to play golf? Who's going to, same thing as in finance. So I think that has been a patriarchal division in dentistry, but it's changing. And especially with 60% of the graduating women, I think we're finding our stride and finding our sisterhood, and men are starting to realize that, women are badasses and we can do the work that they're doing. But maybe they want to have a little bit more of a balanced life and don't want to, every woman, and I will say this, every woman needs a wife. Every working woman needs a wife. And that is, that is just how it is, because we need somebody that's going to think about all those little things that we think about.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
It's not innate to men. I mean, what is that book? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That is still pretty true.
Well, it's very true that a lot, in 2005, 20% of the workforce were licensed females. And I just told you that by 2040, it's going to be 50%. So a lot more females are coming into the profession, which I think is going to be interesting to your point, Kim, and you as well, Anne, is how it's going to develop in procedures, being on stage. A lot more females are coming into the workforce, which is telling, because I do believe, and we touched on this a little bit. If I can share this, Kim, I have opened a practice called Love Bites, powered by AI. And the most ideal provider in this business model is mom dentists that want to work 3 days a week, 3.5 days a week.
Perfect.
So think about it. You have two providers. One works 3 days, the other works 3 days. You're open 6 days a week. It's 3.5, 3.5. You're open 7 days a week. And you got 4 days off, 3.5 days off to be with your family.
Yep.
And one of the challenges with any dental business is the time it takes to run the business away from the chair.
Correct.
And so what we're doing is we've built a support program or system, MSO, management support organization, that basically says, you do the dentistry, we'll deal with all the rest. And that creates an opportunity for that balance, which is, I want to work 3 days and be a mom 4 days a week and come home with $300,000. It's possible.
Yeah.
And they can still do great dentistry and be very proficient in their role.
And one of the challenges, I believe, is that sometimes, in the hardest days in my career of 25 years, sometimes I really didn't know the answer. I didn't know how to get myself out of situations. One of the reasons I believe that a lot of doctors are selling to DSOs is because they're tired of the leadership and management side of dentistry. Well, now, not mine, any management support organization can still give you the opportunity to be an owner of your own business and not become an employee. You give up a small percentage of ownership, but what a trade-off that is. You still own majority share of your business. You're still in full clinical autonomy, full decision-making process, although you got a couple more voices. And you're able to leave work at 5 o'clock and not have to stay till 8 o'clock because of AI voice. You can now do your clinical notes, same time you're, chair side. And so you don't have to sit and figure out an hour and a half after you saw 8 patients or 20 patients or whatever it is to do your notes. So there are so many things that have simplified the balance, which is, even men look for balance.
Oh, I love that concept of balance, because I've fought with that a lot. And I think it's not balance because I mean, well, and you probably have another philosophy, but I don't know if there ever really is a balance. There's alignment. Yeah. Because at times of your life, it's not going to necessarily look pretty, but if you pick the right things at the right time in alignment with each other, they feed off each other. So for me, again, just sharing some of my personal things, but the teaching, with the lecturing, with the right decision to be here today, talking with you, away from my free family time, right? It's just when those things align, right? And every opportunity you get, you don't have to say yes to everything. But anyway, back to your point, is balance is a tricky thing to talk about.
Well, and, Anne, you brought this up, you have to understand who you are. And so sometimes you know who you are at 28, sometimes you're 48, still trying to figure it out. So
there's no end game there. I mean, you're always learning, you're always growing, you're always finding a new puzzle to solve. And just what you were saying is you found a way to make that work for a group of female dentists that will float their boat and will say, oh, that makes sense. So there's a lot of problems that are out there that we can solve if we all come together to the table and listen. What do you need? What do you want? And then be able to, I agree with you though, Kimberly, delegation. And then you probably learned a lot of that in the military. I mean, you've got that part of your command right there. So you've got, that's a muscle that you develop pretty well before you even started your own practice, which was a gift. Honestly, you didn't know what you didn't know what you
I
really
recommend a
could
lot of
use.
other women to consider that as well, because it pushes you in leadership positions. And again, not that it's for everybody, but you come out with less debt oftentimes. Again, I did it a different route, but come out with less debt and more leadership potential. And again, finding strategic partners like what you're discussing, that is the delegation of the parts that you don't love, that doesn't bring you joy. And then you can show up with all the energy to give to your patients and still have some to give at home. I think I tried to do too much certain times of my career. And again, I only learned this delegation after making all the mistakes. But there's only so much energy to go around. And that means for yourself. So physically, I was not doing well. I was not strong enough. I knew I was going to have back problems if I didn't, get my stuff together and start lifting big weights. So I hired a physical trainer. So all those things, right? But like having that level of delegation is really important.
Well, I went, I'm sorry, Anne, go ahead.
No, the other thing that just struck me is you also need your community. And that's what I would do. You need your sister or your buddy or your hubby or your colleague to say, hey, look, this worked for me. How about taking a look at this? I mean, you need people to talk about these things in a very safe space, because you can't really necessarily talk to your colleague down the street, because then that gets away. That gets what? Oh, Kimberly's got back issues. You need that. You maybe don't want to go to her. Those are things, just, all that stuff in the back end. You really need your safe community of people that you can count on. And that's a great thing about dentistry, Shahin, because it's a great community. It's a big community. Our relationships are so important in dentistry.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get your help.
It's dentistry can be a very lonely profession if you don't connect yourself to a community. So 100% agree. If you are that dentist that it feels beaten and feels down and feels alone, the number one thing you can do is get out of your square box and get out and meet people, shake hands. I don't care if you're an introvert. Stop being an introvert. Stop, categorizing yourself and then beating yourself up with that categorization, right? I mean, you're an introvert. Okay, well, shit, go talk to people and become an extrovert.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
again,
about making a decision.
Yeah,
well,
what's their goal, right? I mean, if they want to win, then they have to do what it takes, and it does. And not if it's not for everybody. I guess.
And I think the argument too is, again, we go through this, like sometimes we bully each other, which is a whole nother conversation we could have, because I see this shit happening, and you post something beautiful, right? And there's this whole argument of like, why are we so mean to each other in dentistry? Like, we got to chill, just be supportive, right? We all have shit cases. We all have stuff that happens. But what I always encourage when I, teach or go to study clubs is show the complications, because then that allows somebody else to speak up and say, you know what, I had that happen in my practice too. And that, to your point, like you can sit in your own little clinic and watch all your own disasters, right? We are working in a dark, wet hole that is the most complex crap. And half the time people hate us. So it is so tough. But if you can get yourself, your community, you can go to the right groups, wherever that is, or work in a group, right? And you have that support. And then you realize you're not alone.
You're not alone. That's exactly right, Tim.
I think the aging process, I just remembered right now, in 2009 was the first time I went on stage. It was a panel discussion about being in network and being out of network with dental insurance. And there were 500 people in the audience. And I was on the I'm in network, where majority of the audience was out of network dentists. And fast forward to 2026 with Love Bites Dental, maybe a little slow here, folks. 17 years later, it's an out-of-network business model.
Wow!
And
congratulations.
And it comes to say, I say this to say that we will change. Mm-hmm. We will change in the profession, and welcome the change. We will think different. We will enjoy different procedures. You have to go through it to understand what I don't do root canals anymore. I don't place implants anymore. I used to, didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I did it is because I was financially over leveraged and I pressed the services.
Mhm.
And I would go home and I knew, and maybe not knew because I was 8 years in, 9 years in. I know what clinical excellence is a lot better today than I did in 2009.
Of course.
But when you are doing a number 8 implant, titanium implant, and patient has a high lip line and the titanium shows, that you doesn't take brain surgeon to figure that out. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is, change is inevitable. Accept it, enjoy it, and it comes from hardship, I believe. It comes from pain. Sometimes it has to be really painful for you to change, because you're stubborn and you're going to figure it out, and which is what I did for many years with debt. I'm going to figure it out. The $25,000 case is going to come in, and in a week we're there. We're in another week, and another week, and then now it's 3 years later. I want to talk about this, and you brought this up, and I just got done talking to Dr. Kelly Tanner on her podcast,
Yeah. I
and
love
we
Kelly.
briefly talked about hygienists. And 2001, we were paying hygienists $35, $40 for the $70 in-network fees with Delta. Today, we pay $70 to hygienists, and we get $70, the same $70 and the same $700 25 years later.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of dentists, I had Dr. Brett Kessler, past ADA president, on, and he said something that I think a lot of dentists miss. The argument that dentists have that aren't informed, which was me until I talked to Brett, is that, 1986, Delta gave you $1,500 of maximum benefits every year. And 2026, they still give you $1,500 of benefits every year. The problem is not max benefits. The problem is utilization of the benefits. And it's only 6% nationwide. So this is why there is no interest to increase. Nobody's utilizing their benefits, their insurance, which gets into a practice management conversation of, if you have 10,000 patients, of which 6,000 are inactive and 4,000 are active, and let's just say you're at 16% utilization of your insurance, how much money are you putting on the table every year because you lost 6,000 in the back door and your 4,000 is at 16%? That's a different conversation.
Mhm.
But what I want to talk to you about, Anne, is this notion of, are hygienists being greedy today? And is the idea of hygiene-assisted dentistry or hygiene department, is that far-fetched for a business owner to think that that's the only way it can possibly make sense today?
Here we are, and I think hygienists were feeling in the past years that they were under appreciated and underused. And I feel like sometimes when I think back on, I mean, just my career of working in perio, scaling and replating. I mean, I feel like, basically we're doing surgery when you're doing a really great case of scaling and replating. And, this is so interesting. In dentistry, I don't know. This is a theory. In medicine, men were joining the nursing ranks. So the nursing ranks rose, and you have nurse practitioners and you have PAs, and they make a very good salary and they are autonomous. In dental hygiene, we have probably, in all the dental hygienists, very, very few men have joined dental hygiene. And I feel like it's a female run career. And I just think we haven't had our due. So I feel like there's so many things hygienists can do with all the new oral systemic connection with saliva testing and with just oral cancer screens, all of these things. There's so much we can do. We should be appreciated for that. So I don't know. We were so, I feel underpaid, but we were also underutilized. And then one other thing I want to just mention, and maybe this makes sense. When I started one of the things I wanted to do was to empower women in dentistry. And what I realized when we started, I said, we also have to teach them why they want to be empowered. It's like pushing something that isn't really going anywhere. Like, so I maybe because they didn't know the opportunity was there, but a lot of women, like you were saying, they sit back, they're okay doing their minimum. And that's not good enough for someone like me or for a lot of women in dentistry. So I think you're going to see the women in dentistry that want more, do more, achieving, starting things. You're going to see an uptick in the leadership there, and also in the ability to take hold of things. And from the dentist standpoint, I wish we could be more of a partner with the dentist. And it's never really, I never felt that way, to tell you much that way. I felt like I was the partner. Honestly, I felt like I was the vice president of the dental office, and that didn't go over very well. But I'm like a go-getter, and I've got a lot of self-confidence. I knew I was an excellent hygienist, but I don't know. I'm
Well,
going
you
around
talk.
circles
You
here. I
well,
don't know if I'm answering you or not, but it just,
well,
don't get me started.
no. Let me say this: the problem with underutilization many times is the fault of the business owner.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the fault of the business owner and what role they play in that. They don't know their metrics.
Yeah.
They don't know how well or how talented of a hygienist they have, or how lazy of a hygienist they have. They don't know. And so when, the famous saying, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So it's easy to look at $70 an hour and consider it an expense. Or you can actually look at the $70 and look at it from an investment perspective of how can this $70 help me grow my business?
Yeah. What can you do?
Yeah.
to earn that 70?
And then what you do is you go and you find that individual that fits that role. Because the truth is, not every hygienist is going to be the person that should be in your business. Just like not every associate should be in your business.
But it also goes back to culture, like what Kimberly was saying earlier. Like, you've got a great team. Kimberly, you pour into your team. Like, I got to say, I poured into myself, and I worked for docs that I really loved. They were great clinicians, but they did not pour into their team. They did not train their team, and they were good guys. I honestly, I never worked for a female. I would have liked to, but I just, when I look back on my career, I did it on my own learning. I did everything on my own. And that doesn't build a good culture. And that doesn't build people that are a team and that you're going to work together and you all know the metrics. And again, we go back to dentists don't get any business in dental school, and not everybody's got the aptitude for it either. Like Kimberly, you're looking for it, you're working on it. And you and your husband probably have great conversations, but you also probably have coaches and people that take over some of that hard stuff. And a lot of them just want to go alone. And to your point too, they don't feel like they have the money to pay a coach or to pay a consultant.
Which again, you just have to value that. Yeah. I have a comment to make about a hygienist too, if you want me to add a little bit.
Yeah, I would love you to add.
Yeah, I've had such a pleasure of knowing some of the smartest hygienists, and yourself, Ann, some incredibly talented people who chose to be hygienists that could have been oral surgeons or whatever, right? Name your profession. Incredibly talented people that have taken their profession by storm and are writing papers. And again, some of my friends in Canada are running their own practice and the dentists work for them. Yeah. I said I wasn't going to have a hygienist, right? I wanted to be the practice where I'm referral based. They go back to their home and all that. And I decided this year to strategically bring someone on because I've invested in all the highest end cleaning things, right? The EMS airflow system. And I'm doing these very complex things that I should be able to maintain them in my own practice. And so I don't have someone every week. I have one hygienist that I really got to know her extremely well. My team actually found her and said, she is the perfect fit. She matches our culture. And now her and I are trying to figure out how we can develop co-lectures because she's teaching me things about the highest end implant maintenance and all these new innovation things. And I was like, oh, I heard about that. She brought bringing things to me. So that's the type of person that I knew I had to find. And again, she works at another practice majority of her time, but she comes and hangs out with us like once a month and takes care of certain patients. And it really is. It's a partnership, which has been super fun. So,
well, I will say this. Delegation means you're empowering your team to help you grow your business. And that empowerment, I believe, is refreshing in our profession, because most owners, maybe even, and you could attest to this, being in the business for many years, is they're just looking for problems. Like, why did you do that wrong? Why did you do this wrong? Don't do that. That's not part of your, and a lot of them don't even know what their job descriptions are. So they come in, they get thrown into a seat, and it's like, okay, so
no training,
yeah. So
like you're supposed to be able to know how to run a front desk, and you just
the point is the owner is so bad at HR in the hiring process, the interview process, because they don't even know what they want. All they want is that seat filled so they can go do dentistry, and that's just completely wrong mindset.
Well, you won't have any stickiness there. I mean, the long-term employees are the ones that are run well, and they have a love for the practice and the growth of the practice, and for the clinicians that are running it. I mean, I think it starts with the top. It starts with the leader. I mean, the dentists have to be that leader to empower their team, give them the tools they need to be empowered, interest to do it.
How do you get an introvert to become a leader, Anne?
Well, an introvert can be a leader. I mean, it doesn't mean they have to be talking to everybody. An introvert could be a learner, and a learner is a great communicator, and they could, could be an extrovert, introvert. But I mean, I think there's some introverts that are leaders all over the world. So I don't know I don't know about that. Just because you're an extrovert doesn't mean you are automatically going to be a leader.
And I think it's strategy too. And again, like everything else, I go through my phases. There are certain pieces of my life that I choose to delegate at certain times. So maybe for that person, right, matching a personality that will come in, a consultant, and help run a meeting, right? But the dentist is still making all the strategic decisions and helping build the right culture for the team. Because ultimately, yes, the culture starts from the top, from the dentist, but you need that culture to be so infiltrated in your team that anybody else could pass that along. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be the dentist doing it. And what my consultant does at our practice, because in Bend, Oregon, we have a river that runs down through the middle of Bend, and it's called the Deschutes River. And what we say when we look to bring a new team member on is we look at each other, right? We do a working interview, and we look at each other and we say, would we all independently float the river with that person? Meaning, you'd have to sit there in the quiet water and ride a raft. If you wouldn't sit there and have that solo time with that person or ride the river with them, they're not in. And I think I learned that too, later on. I made some mistakes with people that weren't a good match, but now that's our metric. And I think
the business culture. Yeah, no, the business culture is so important. I think it's so underestimated as far as growth in a business. If you are a consumer and you walk into a place where everybody's happy and friendly and joyful and patients are saying positive things, believe me, that makes a difference.
Yeah, well, they like what they're doing. And who would want to go to a dental office? It's not, I mean, I just, any office like that. But the other thing that I want to say too is, like, I'm going back to the introvert. Okay, so if that person knows himself, and everybody knows what they're good at. And I love Strength Finders. So that is my deal. I mean, we've based our whole community on Strength Finders, living your strengths. And then you find people that have the woo, have the extrovert. You have the ability to build a team. And so you have somebody that has other gifts, and you all work together as a whole. But the leader can be actually more strategic and very quiet, but can really build there are some quiet introverted dentists that have a great team. And I just think it's because they know themselves, they've hired the right people, and that's the right person in the seat.
I want to take a step back just a little bit, Kim, if you don't mind. I graduated with $400,000 in debt, 2001.
Wow.
And I know specialists are 700,000 to 1.2 graduating specialty programs after dental school.
Yep.
And 1997, I was zero in debt, 400,000 in 2001. 2008, I'm $2 million in debt. And I sit and I'm like, the last 10 years, I think I've gone the wrong way. Right? So talk to me about the tolerance of debt and the understanding. And I just spoke with Kelly, as I said, and I said, look, you go to dental school knowing you're going to be $400,000 or $500,000 in debt 4 years later, and
Yes.
you wait until your fourth year or first year out to complain about the debt? Like you knew what you're getting yourself into, and now you're complaining. So, and then to add to that, you get a consultant that tells you, oh, you got to buy an existing practice and you got to have that income and you got to get into the, it's 1.2, they're bringing home 350, pay 950,000 for it. And you're like, okay, they know what they're doing, right? And because they're the expert, they know, they've been in the business. I'm young, I'm 28, 29, 32, what do I know? And so, and then you buy the practice and it drops 30% in collections because you don't know what the hell you're doing. And the doctor you bought the practice from was a 68-year-old retiring male and you're a 32-year-old new female.
Yeah.
So you find yourself, and this is where things started to get dark for me in 2008. With a few real estate investments at that time as well, which if you remember, 2008 was not very friendly to the real estate market.
Yeah.
So these are the compounding little decisions that you make that become a crisis 5, 8, 12 years later.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about, and I want you to kind of have two hats here. One with, I have an oral surgeon husband.
Yeah.
And if shit, hits the fan, I got coverage. And
Sure.
two, I'm a single mom prosthodontist that has to figure this out with all this debt. Can you kind of play those both hats? And what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's interesting because, so I guess, I feel very grateful that I have a partner and we get to go through this together. And I say to everybody, I have the luxury of being away and traveling and speaking internationally and doing these other side gigs, right, that I started in my late 30s, early 40s because of this comfort that I don't need to make as much money in my practice because I do have a little bit of a cushion. Now, that being said, I took out, similar to you, over $400,000 in debt at Tufts. And then I went and did a residency and took out more debt each year, right? I did not do a military scholarship, although I practiced in the Army. I just got a salary from the Army. So I do encourage a lot of people, and I'm talking to one of my employees right now, trying to encourage her to go to dental school. And she's like, these numbers are so crazy. I said, yes, they are crazy. But I've always, again, I came from parents, my dad's an electrician. My parents didn't have, the college degree, the whole thing. They thought I was crazy. I just knew I was going to bet on myself. And I knew, one of the girls I'm mentoring, she's like, I'm not smart enough. I said, it's about absolute grit and passion. Yeah. And I always would bet on myself being the hardest working person. So with that, I knew if X didn't work, well, then I will do Y. And I wanted, again, not just living under my husband's shadow, like ultimately, if, I hope that things work out and we're a wonderful couple, but I also have my own hands. I have my own skill set. I can go do my own thing, right? Like I don't have to live in that shadow, and I have something that I know I can and have a good earning from. But the debt, again, everybody has their own comfort level with debt. I chose to say it's going to take what it's going to take to get me to have this profession that I'm passionate about. And I will work my tail off, right? Whatever sect that takes me down. Maybe that's a survival mentality. Yeah. Some people say that just some people have that. Doesn't matter what field, if it's dentistry or not. But I was going to pivot if needed to, and I still will pivot if I need to. I'm still chipping away at all my dental school debt, and I decided to take on a big loan to build this beautiful practice that I love. But I think it's not in lieu of this or that. Like I chose to take that debt out, knowing that I was going to fulfill this type of practice that I felt was my secret sauce. You know, like I wasn't just opening another practice. I was opening this thing that then I could provide the dentistry in and the experience and set it up for these big cases, right? Like it was all synergistic. So yeah, I still have a lot of debt.
Let me, if I can have some words of wisdom after
Please.
being divorced twice
Yes,
and
please.
being in my third marriage. Get your significant other involved and get them involved early and make sure they understand the risks, they understand the rewards, they understand if everything falls apart, what happens, and you understand it as well, because money is a conversation in young relationships.
Yeah.
Tori, can you play asset number 2, please?
I guess about 10 years ago now. So my sons were like 15 and 17, and I've been divorced for a number of years. There was a young woman who used to work for me named Amanda. She was a lawyer who I'd hired, and she worked for me right out of law school for a couple of years, and then she had a baby. She went on maternity leave, never came back. I joked she left me for another man because she had a little boy, and she said, you know, I'm gonna work from home, and then she moved to Florida to be closer to family. She's a great lawyer. She's actually now one of the best lawyers in the Miami area. But she left, you know, and she came back to visit. She was in New York for whatever reason. She had just had another baby. So she comes into the office, and my secretary says, oh, this young woman named Amanda's here. I was like, oh my God, Amanda. I hadn't seen her in such a long time. And I go out, and she's got this little, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 month old baby. And then she's got her, you know, 3 or 4 year old son. And I'm chatting with her, and she had that look about her that I know you know very well, of just an overwhelmed, like, that second one, like you got like a little 2 or 3 year old, and then you got this little infant, and she just looked like shell shocked, like, you know, and I was, you know, and she just had this, like, you know, I'm gonna try to tell the story without getting choked up.
No crying on this podcast. I was clear. I was clear on that.
Yeah. And I went back to my office, I closed the door, and I called my ex-wife, and I said to her, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, when you were there, you had this little 2 year old, and you had this little infant. I was drowning in my own fear.
Yeah.
I was trying to start a law firm. I wanted to be a good provider. Like I was buried. Like I was buried. Like I came from nothing, and it was get rich or die trying. Like being a successful divorce lawyer was plan A, and there was no plan B. And I just said to her, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like I said, just seeing this young woman and how overwhelmed she is. And I remember you being that overwhelmed. And I was so caught up in my own crap that I would come home and you'd be that overwhelmed, and I would just be complaining to you about how stressful my day was. I was like, and I just want you to know, like, I'm so sorry. Like you deserved better than that. You deserved me to show up for you and to say to you, like, oh my God, you're doing such a good job. Like, cause that's what I gave Amanda. Like,
Right.
Like I was like, you're doing great. And she's like, oh, I feel exhausted. I'm like, you're crushing it. I'm like, this is a lot, man. This is a lot. I'm like, you got your hands full. Like, but you're doing great. Like, you should be so proud of yourself. You're such a good mom. And I thought, like, God, I gave it to this person who worked for me for a little while, and I didn't give it to the mother of my own children, you know?
Why don't we, as young couples, give each other grace? Why is it always a financial fight? Why do we not understand, have empathy? I say this as a 58-year-old, by the way. Why do we not have empathy for our partners? I think this is, you know, I've used this example, and maybe you've both experienced this, I don't know, but I have made this comment before that the night of your wedding, you are committing, legally you're committing to the covenant of marriage. There is a point in your marriage that you have to commit to each other. And that point always, and maybe many times, comes at the lowest point of the marriage. And I'm sure you would attest to this, there's seasons, as you mentioned earlier, in everything, just like marriage. There is a season, I can tell you, when we had our second child, my marriage was in trouble. We weren't communicating well. My wife was so focused on the kids. You know, there was a lot of dependence on young babies.
Mhm.
You know, until they start school, it's a heavy load on mothers.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes on when you are $2 million in debt and you have to, and I'm not $2 million in debt today, but you know, when you're in heavy debt and you got two young kids that you can't sleep at night, and you know, sleep is important for, you know, just having clarity.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard.
that video for me really, if I was to do my two marriages over again, I would say I was just emotionally not intelligent enough.
Mhm.
I didn't understand myself well enough. I didn't understand what I wanted. I thought marriage was a certain, you know, it's a certain way. There's a certain, you know, ambiance or feeling that you have to have in order to have marriage. And marriage is work. Marriage is effort. Marriage is forgiveness. Marriage is respect. Marriage is communication. Marriage is not like dentistry where you're just going to drive a convertible Beamer your third year out.
Yeah.
I had a convertible SL 460.
There you go.
No. But do you know, there's so much depth to that. Those two videos, by the way, I spent over 60 hours a week on social media.
Oh.
So I'm clocking in about it. I'm not looking for sympathy, but you know, I'm clocking in some heavy hours, and and I told Kelly, if you love what you do, you don't work another day in your life.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in burnout. So anyways, but I talked to Kelly about this as well. Like, we are a certain way at home, and then we're a completely different person with our friends. Like, if your friend saw how you treated your husband and your wife and the things that you would tell your husband and your wife, they would look at you different. They would think of you different.
Yeah.
Why in closed parameters in your home, why are you so mean and rude and disrespectful and hateful? And then you go out and you're like, oh my gosh, how much fun we're having. Oh, look at it. And your friends are like, your husband and your wife like doesn't like you, but they don't know you.
Oh, that's sad. I'm sorry. That's a tough one.
So, well, I mean, that's divorce court, right? And that's what
Yeah.
that lawyer goes through.
Well, I
in
think sometimes you're
divorce.
just not ready for it, and sometimes you're not, you know, I mean, I think if you're married, you get it right the first time, you're really lucky. I'm just going to say that because
Yeah.
you don't know when you're young. I mean, I was almost 22 walking down the aisle. And then I'm a totally different person than I was then. But you know, something about luck when you're that young, and then, you know, you hope you get it right. And then you have when you have a lot of burdens on your shoulders, and men don't share that. So men stuff that where women talk about it. So when I was saying, I don't know if it's easier for men, but they have different problems. They have different difficulties. Like, I think women pretty much share everything. And so, you know, that is tough when you have that going on and you don't have a really good partner or someone that could, you know,
Well,
be through that.
it's a learning experience, because when a
Yeah.
man goes silent, there's a problem.
Yeah.
When a woman talks too much, there's a problem.
Yo,
if that
that's
makes
true.
any sense, right?
But the other thing
So-
the other thing that strikes me, and I want to just mention this too, is and this is hopeful, because I had a patient one time when Tom started his own business. I mean, you know, we were doing very well when he decided to start his own thing. So then we were like, holy camoles, what are we going to do? How are we going to send our kids to their schools, blah, blah, blah. And a patient said to me, and she's, look, you are never going to be poor. You might be broke. You won't be poor. And that is something that people can hang on to in dentistry. You're not going to be poor. So you'll climb your way out. You might need help, but you will not you will not be poor. You will maybe be broke. And so sometimes when you have that much debt and you're going through divorce, yeah, you're broke, but you know that there's a way, like you were saying, Kimberly, you know, there's a way You
Yeah.
can't get through dental school and hygiene school if you're not smart and determined.
Right. You
So
just
there
have
is
to have that level of grit. Yeah.
you got to have a level of grit, and you have to have people that are going to help you get through it. But sometimes I think that's the difference between men is sometimes they are going to do that road alone. They're not going to tell anybody about it because it looks really bad on them if they have had a business deal go wrong or they made a wrong decision, and women will just talk about it and get it all out, just kind of like I say, like throw it up, and then they're fine, then they can take care of the kids and all that kind of stuff. So there's two men are different from women in those regards, and it's not easy being a man either.
Yeah.
So-
And I talk about, when I talk about our marriage, or I always joke, like, we hope we work out, because we have our businesses and all these things. But and it's hard to know when you're making these decisions, right? We're all just human bodies out there attracted to each other and hope that these things work out. But picking a partner, that you hope that you grow with. And I think that, as weird as it sounds, being two dentists, like, we're both still very motivated in our careers. And to your point, like, it doesn't matter how much money we have. We get so much joy out of the physical nature of using our hands and doing these things every day that we're not coming home talking about money and wins in that way. We're like, Sally did so well, or, like we have those types of wins together.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we constantly are working on our marriage, right? It is not a single week where we don't say to each other, like, hey, I don't like how you said that to me. Right. And it's having those little interjections. It's not having to go to crazy therapy all the time. It's just being truthful and boundaries with yourself. Like, I wish you said it this way to me, and that would be better for me. And the more you know about yourself, the more you can direct a partner. So I think that I've always kind of been an old soul, and maybe like hopefully it all works out, but I genuinely feel like I picked someone that I know is continuing to grow and develop and gives me freedoms. Again, if I want to go to this trip and he genuinely, in all honesty, doesn't want to go, it's like, no, I'd rather go on this surf trip, and I think you should do that. And neither of us are offended. So it's,
Well,
that's not respect. That's respect for each other. That's a big part of respecting the growth. But when you're young, you don't know that that's even a thing. Personal development is not really something that young people are drawn to at an early age.
So I got more comments. I'd get my glasses on because last time I didn't read it very well. Let's see how I do with when I can actually see.
I keep falling off.
So IG, Instagram, Kim, the gentle dentist. Ain't that the truth? At Dr. Skim.
Hey, Marissa.
With 3 hearts.
Oh.
Comment from Judy.S Journey Hawaii. My cousin is a rock star.
Oh, thank you, Judy.
Comment from Dr. Melissa Ibert. Dr. Kim, and then it's got that emoji with the eyes that's a heart. I don't know what to call it. But,
oh, Melissa, you're a badass.
So it's
thing too.
You're getting a lot of love, Kim, which is amazing.
Deserved, Kim. Well deserved. I fell in love with her when I met her at the Spear. I mean, right? You're just, I remember you.
Well,
you're hard to forget, dear.
And we briefly met. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Kim yet, but Ann and I briefly met. And
we've known each other for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we've crossed paths a few times over the last few years.
Yeah.
What is the goal and the vision moving forward, and with Do and that community and that tribe, if I can use that term?
Yeah, you can use that term. It's just growing. I think what happens, we've grown so much this year, and the last actually 2 years, we're like on rocket fuel right now, is to just find women, or that women find us, and they're finding us. Every day I'm on a call with somebody that I would never know if it weren't for this organization there, because as Kim really knows, women and dentists in general are head down in their operatory, and they're alone. It's one of those, it is lonely. And so to find a community, I want to just keep building it. Everyone's welcome. Come sit at the table. We have principles, that we live by and are very important to us, and just come have a seat. Check it out. That's we're going to continue to grow, because I've seen the women that have joined us have grown exponentially in their careers and their personal and professional lives, and it's just been beautiful to see. They've got someone to lean on, someone to call. that kind of
So
thing.
you have retreats. I'm assuming there's mentorship, coaching, and
Yes.
some other
Mastermind.
pieces to Mastermind. Do you want to talk a little bit about that for women that are listening?
Well, sure. If anybody wants to come, I'd love Kimberly to hop on over to Charlotte, North Carolina. We're right across from Den Spice Roni. You've probably been in Den Spice Roni building in Charlotte.
Cool.
But anyway, it's November 11th through 14th. Thanks for asking. 12th through 14th, I guess, in Charlotte. And we'll have 250 women. We sell out every year. We're always sold out of our sponsor tables and everything. And it's at the resort, it's at the Valentine Resort. And there's no CE. It's really about women coming together for personal and professional development. And it's cool because there's so many women. We're in circles, right? We have these circles. But these women are coming in from all over, and they're just so cool. And they've got so many interests and so many goals. And so I think dentistry I have so much hope for dentistry with women taking the roles and loving their profession. And one of the things that the goal for me is for them to fall in love with themselves for who they were made and to fall in love with others. And that's pretty much it. And that's how we've grown. And we're doing great. We're doing great.
Well, you are doing great. I mean, you've exponentially grown over the last few years. As I see I don't think it's photoshopped. I think there's just more and more people in the photos. And I'm like, holy crap, she's doing something right.
Yeah. Well, it's not me. I want to make this clear. People give me a lot of credit. Literally, I was just mad my friend was bullied and I opened the door. That is basically it. And then the amazing women in dentistry come in. And the guys too. I mean, sure, I gave you a dude number. So men are DEWD, small lowercase d.
Dude,
They are
that's
dudes.
good.
But all the guys want to come. And I'm like, we have 327 men that have actually taken on the mantle of dude.
Wow.
And yeah. So I asked them to tattoo
that I didn't
their
know.
number. Yeah, tattoo their number on their thigh. Yeah, but because we can't do it without you guys. We love you guys, and we want it. We're not going to win if we just all don't win together. So
and actually, one of the things I want to touch on, which again is important to Kim, and I want to bring this up, is that fact of making sure that it's not a segregated community, and you bringing men and women into the picture.
Yeah.
And I know. Kim, that's important for you as well, as we want to make sure that both genders are being represented.
Yeah, and I think ultimately when we have it's nice to have, again, like we talked about our own communities and our own vulnerabilities, but how fun is it to have a master version of this at some point with your do's and your dudes, and have that type of setting as well. So I think it's all a stepping stone, and eventually, again, it's going to be 50% women before we know it. That all of us sharing our interests, our failures, our vulnerabilities, our desire for growth, our fun side too, right? Like we're not all just a dentist. We all got weird, fun stuff that we do behind the scenes and doing that together. So
I'm wondering, do men have it easier? It sounds like they don't. It's just different, is what I'm hearing.
It's just different.
It's just different, right? We don't have it easier. We're just different.
I don't want it easier. I like this form of it. Yeah, I think it's fun.
like being a woman. I have no desire to. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited.
Kim, what is next for you? What's the vision and the goal for where you're going next?
So a huge loaded question. I just keep building my own community. And so with that, I keep getting more exciting opportunities. And I realize that I have a major passion for education and being on stage and sharing wins and failures and all that. So I'm kind of riding that wave, and I keep getting offered bigger and bigger opportunities. And I say yes to the things that align with me. So I think strategizing my clinic so that when I am physically there, I am 100% on and using my skill set, optimizing my team so that they can be the most optimized, like delegation wise, or all the adjunct things that they can do in my practice, drawing the right patients to my clinic, and then, allowing me the freedom that my time outside my clinic, am I using it for family time? Am I using it for speaking, or am I using it for education, or what does that look like, right? While still fitting in travel with my family or all these fun personal growth and development things. So just still trying to expand that.
I won't bet against you. You're going to do it.
No, absolutely. Kim, I have a question for you. And that question is, I want you to look at the specialty as a whole. And
Yeah.
do you think in 7, 10, 15 years, do you believe that the concept of the referral source and the referral system is going to go away, become more obsolete? And are you targeting more direct to consumer today than, say, even just a few years ago, what was happening? The reason I bring this up is because, look, the reality is a lot of general dentists are doing pros work, and they're doing full mouth cases, and they're placing implants, and they're taking the CR continuums and the COIS continuums, and they're learning how to do these bigger cases. And is that a benefit for you or a disadvantage for you being in pros?
There's always two ways to look at it. They said it before I went into pros, that pros was a dying field and who would go into prosthodontics. And a lot of women that I mentor in prosthodontics have heard that same thing. Like, whatever you do, don't specialize in pros because it's going away. Well, I don't think we realized what AI was going to do to radiology either, right? So like, there's technologies that are coming out to make all of us more badass dentists. So I don't think it will ever go away. I think that there's always going to be some complexity to cases that additional 3 years of full-on residency-based education is going to put me in a different place than others, right? And in a community. And so I think that there will always be a referral need, but absolutely, I found myself doing more direct-to-patient marketing, mainly because of the types of cases that I want. So I might get every challenging case, but maybe every challenging case is a third time revision and that patient doesn't have any funds, and I can't build my entire practice on that model. So I think that as specialists, yes, we are in the middle of having to do a little bit of both, while respecting, there's all these jokes on Instagram of like, I know what I'm going to do with a patient. I'm going to send it to a prosthodontist or whatever. Right. And that's all fun and games until every patient that shows up on your door is a revision and has no money. Right. And it's not fun because I want to help those people too. But with the amount of debt that I'm in, if I did that for my entire career. Right. So ultimately, I think you have to decide what type of dentistry you want to do. Read your referrals. And I don't need a million referral partners. I need people that are COIS educated, that are spear trained, that are all these things, that acknowledge that there is a place for prosthodontists. So some of my best referrals are the highly educated referrals. And they pick and choose, and they keep certain things in their practice. And I love that for them. I don't want to take those patients from them. Right. But the ones that they know they're sending to me, they've vetted, they've said to this patient, this is not the cheapest place to go in the area. This person is going to do it the very best way that she feels is going to be the longest lasting, best prognosis for you. Right. Like, she's not going to give you a million options. She's going to tell you this is the predictable way to do it. So I think but I've already spent, even though my practice is only 3 years old, I went down a year before I opened my startup, and I, built a relationship with a community and kind of sussed out, who are people that are going to trust me with their patients, who feel that it's going to be a relationship experience, right? If they want that patient back and they want to do some of the dentistry, that's great. I need to know that. I need to learn that about them. I think it really depends on your area.
Yeah, it's a conversation that I've had with multiple doctors that are specialists, and this concept of direct to consumer, and your good friend and Dr. Sonia Chopra talking about over 50% of her root canals are retreated root canals by GPs that come to her office that are dealing with huge swellings areas and pain, and we don't take into account what we're actually doing to patients. And she sees them, and you see them in revisions in your practices. Many times doctors will come on social and say, I've never had a failed case. Well, when your case fails, they don't come back to you.
They don't come back to you.
They don't come back.
So that's why you don't see your failed cases, and you think you have this, 100% success story. But
I think it goes to also just being an expert in your lane. Like you were saying, pick what you're really good at, what you really love, and then stay there. And then again, and as a patient, I mean, do you want to go to somebody that does a root canal, once a month, or do you want to go to somebody that does a 5-10 root canals a day, or whatever the number is there? I mean, that is education for patients, I think.
And I think it's a disservice to our patients that most people can't say the word prosthodontist, right? I say this all the time. Like, how can they learn to say orthodontist, but they can't say prosthodontist? Neither word is easy to say. But yeah, and I help. Again, part of my job in the community is mentoring, right? I have friends that I help they're doing full mouth cases and they're beautifully done, right? But yeah, ultimately, I get a lot of revisions. And my number one thing I say to people is, please send me the patient. And I am not going to be here bashing anybody else's dentistry, right? You could look at a case I did 5 years ago and be like, what the heck was she thinking? Again, this whole bullying concept. I hope that 5 years from now, I do dentistry that's completely different than I did this year, right?
Yeah,
And that means we're developing and changing and growing and learning more about the body.
Anyway. I showed one of my cases where I did an 8-unit case in 2008. I think it was 2025. She came in 2024, 25. She came in, I posted it. And I said 2008 prep. And then I shared my 2025 prep. Yes. And I'm looking at it going, I prep like that? I mean, so
it changes so much. I mean, everything is just, you've got to be on your game and be able to pivot.
Like the biggest thing I will say also is your ability, and you brought this up, Anne, as far as, being in the people's business, dealing with people and communication. That's one thing that I feel really good about as I've aged into this profession, is just the little things don't matter. People make remarks and you just let it, you brush it off. You don't respond. You don't have to respond to everything that somebody says to you. It's okay. Just maybe they're having a bad day and they say something that, and they say something that 20 years ago or 10 years ago would have bothered me, and I would have came back with a one-liner or something. Well, that one-liner doesn't help your business. It doesn't help your relationship. It doesn't need to be said. And so you don't always, as the leader, manager, doctor, you don't have to have the last say. It's okay for somebody to say something and they have the last say. It's okay. It's not a concern. I want to get my glasses back on again, but let's see.
You have evolved. I mean, that's called evolving and growing up and becoming an adult. And then you get to a certain point, you look back on all that and you're like, okay.
Well, I talk about,
you always do our best. That's the thing. The core agreements. Do your best.
Okay, when we talk about the best husband material, let me just throw this out because I had an amazing girls trip to Ibiza. And one of the things that my girls on this girls trip, who are all single and beautiful, do you know what the type of man that they're looking for? Is someone that's over 50 that's been divorced. Because they're they're both educated. They've figured their stuff out. So just throwing that out there as a little fun side piece. If you are that man, that's
right. Reach out to Kim. She has some beautiful women for you. All right, let me read this. Doctor,
things.
Oh my God.
I mean, maturity, they say it's 7 years, right? So at least, so maturity definitely matters. Women are they're not looking for the young, immature, hot 6-pack. No, I'm kidding.
That doesn't hurt.
All right. Dr. Torija, sorry, ITI, says chairwoman to you, Kim.
Okay.
Sorry, I got to get my glasses on.
Yeah,
I get my loops on.
Kind of left out because I don't have my Instagram.
Probably hyping ITI, but yeah, if you guys don't know, the International Team of Implantology is an amazing place to learn, and I have a female and male community there.
Swiss Canadian Smile, Prostho, the best.
Oh,
I don't know if you know who that is, but so yeah, we're getting some great comments. Look, my personal belief as far as and I talk about this clinical excellence. Understand that if you've done this for a few years, you have a choice to make. You know what that choice is. Not everybody. It's like I told one of my friends, he said to me, I'm like, well, you can't. There's so much bad dentistry going on. Nobody's watching it. And he's like, well, you know how many people speed every day and how many get tickets? The point is a lot of people are doing bad dentistry and they know it's bad or average. You have a choice to be excellent. And I think one of the things that once you make the clinical decision that you want to be excellent, you refer more. You realize that you are not you're not going to be the best at it. Kim is going to be much better than I am in placing implants. Sonia is going to be much better at doing root canals than I am. Why should we find an excuse for the patient when we separate the file? Why don't we just send the patient to the right person the first time? And so that's your alarm for us to stop. And it's like you said 90 minutes and it's been past 90 minutes. Clocked out. But
Oh,
right?
sorry.
No, but
Dinner's ready.
Yeah. But you understand there are so many clinical decisions that we make every day, and we know better. We know better, but we choose not to be clinically excellent. And I think that goes without saying. And I understand when you're young, you know, the idea, and I've said this, and I want to say two things here. I've said this in my practice management conversations. Dentistry is the most powerful profession. You're never going to be hungry from the dentistry that you produce or collect. You're going to be hungry in the decisions that you make with the money you make.
Yeah.
And so if you're making wrong decisions with the money, that's where you falter in your decision-making process, and you got to learn and grow. It wasn't the dentistry that failed. Dentistry is going to make you $25 to $60 million in your career. And your $500,000 or $2 million in debt is going to be minuscule 25 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wanted to say, we talked about relationships. You can build a relationship in 10 years and throw it all away with your tongue and what you say in 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the things that you learn as you age is you learn to control your tongue. Mm-hmm. You learn that what you have to say isn't that important. What your opinion is many times doesn't matter. Nobody really cares about your opinion, especially when you're trying to put somebody down to bring yourself up. Mm. And that's to your point, Kim, of talking about social media and how people bully each other on social media. Guess what? Most malpractice lawsuits are happening because there are two experts that said yes to the same dentistry that they're looking at from different versions. And that's exactly what those experts are doing. They're throwing one person under the bus, one obviously supporting and one against. And there's a lot of money to be made in that business.
That's too bad.
You know, and so, you know, these are just some, you know, some ways that I believe you should just think the next time you're going to say something, or think the next time you're going to treat someone. There is a human being behind that. And Sonia said in her live courses, she had a live course, she had 4 patients in extreme pain and swelling from a retreatment that she had to do from some general dentists that did bad endo. And the general dentists that were in the class never realized that bad root canals can lead to these patients coming into the specialties, the specialist practice, basically crying, not sleeping, in misery from bad root canal treatments. That's a clinical decision that dentist made. And now, obviously, you got to take CE, you got to practice. I get it. I get the language. So I'm not saying, you know, don't practice, but at some level, you start realizing, like Kim said early on, you start realizing what you enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. So anyways, ladies, the alarm went off. So that's my cue to cut this. Any last minute, you know, there's female dentists, male dentists listening here. Any last words of wisdom here? And I'll let you go first.
You know what just struck me as the 4 agreements? And do you know the 4 agreements? I have, in my older years here, I have lived by these. I found them and have really taken them to heart. So the first agreement is my word is impeccable. The second agreement is I take nothing personally. The third one is I make no assumptions. And the fourth one, I always do my best. And it just speaks to so much we were talking about people that say things and we take it personally or we make assumptions. They don't like our work, blah, blah, blah. Look, we could only live by the 4 agreements. And I hope that that'll help you have a great year. The rest of the year is just live by those.
That was very well said.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, very well said. Kim, any
Yeah,
words of wisdom?
If you ever need a little pick-me-up, I'm usually posting something funny or interesting, or just reach out to me. I pride myself in a glass half full type of person, and I know not everybody wakes up like that, but shake the stuff off from the day before. We're in the trenches, literally. I say to my team, like we are working in a dark, wet hole, and this is hard.
Yeah.
We've chose this, so pat yourself on the back for showing up for your team, for your patients, for your tribe, for your family at home. Just, remind yourself that this is not an easy thing that we chose to do, and you got this. So anyway.
And you
ladies,
it's fun.
Thank you so much for doing this. I have to say, I said, what should we use as a title for Kim before we started? And I said, badass prosthodontist. And that is like, well, shit, I want to be badass too.
That's right.
And I was like, well, if she wants to be badass, I want to be a badass too. And that's how we got our,
badass title.
3 Musketeers.
So I might keep mine. I don't know.
Yeah, you should.
I'm sure somebody's going to call me arrogant and cocky.
Oh, no. Don't take it personally. Do not take that personally.
That was one of the 4 agreements, right? Listen. We don't listen. We're men. We don't listen.
Oh, you're going to be just fine. I think you're listening. I think you got it now.
Thank you for listening to us. This was fun.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be on this and good to know Kim better. And Shahin, you're just amazing. So
let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah. I won't set the alarm next time, all right?
That's right.
We'll keep it going. All right.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. A lot of wisdom there. And if you're listening, be active, be intentional. Don't just listen and go, yeah, that's a great idea, and then don't do it. That's not being intentional. And that just over time becomes a waste of time. Next week we have the CEO of DDS Marketing, Artie, is going to be with us. I'm going to beat him up about branding and marketing. What's more important? I'm sure he has a say. I'm Dr. Shahin Safarian. Follow me at Dr. Shahin Safarian. And you know what? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're getting a nice little boost on my YouTube channel. And, it would be an honor to have you continue to follow my content. And like I said, if I use badass host, please, it's just, feel like I'm a badass. So I'm going to use it. And Ad said, don't take it personal. So call me whatever you want. Until